Hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another day of GCAP. I hope we all had a fantastic first day and also went home, got some rest, and are ready for day two. We did have a beautiful welcome to country yesterday from Uncle Tony. But I would, of course, love to acknowledge that we are on what has always been and always will be Aboriginal land, and extend my respects to welcome any First Nations attendees here today. If you weren't here yesterday, I'm Sav Wolf, and I'm the Manager of Events, Content and Diversity, Equality and Inclusion for IGEA. I'm also the Event Manager and Content Manager for GCAP. We have had a really amazing first day. I got all of the photos back from yesterday, and I am so thrilled to see so many of you having such a great time. I'm going to try and keep myself as short as possible here, but please make sure to check out the sponsor booths, the experts in residence, the local lounge, and yes, our free coffee cart once more. As a heads up, as I mentioned yesterday, the workshops that are on tomorrow do need to be booked via Schedge and will be getting the cut off at 3 p.m. today. So please make sure to book in your workshops for tomorrow before then. I tried to bring you this next part in iambic pentameter because there are so many to thank, but unfortunately I'm just not that good at Shakespeare anymore. So this year's GCAP wouldn't be possible without the help of our sponsors, so a huge thank you to Ultimate Studio and Supercell, Sledgehammer, Playside Studios, Unreal Epic Games, EA Fire Monkeys, Amazon Web Services, League of Geeks, Code New Zealand, LDB, Aria Jaharan, City of Port Phillip, Gameloft, South Australia Film Corporation, Screen Queensland, Superglue, Screen West, Creative Victoria, Hipster Whale, Big Ant Studios, Cam Rogers Legal, Unity, Leonardo AI, Vercel, Department Games, previously Tumus, Exola, Screen New South Wales, Google, as well as our industry partners, Screen Australia and Vic Screens. Thank you for your generous support and for letting us bring you this jam-packed conference. Most of you showed up to my housekeeping yesterday, but if it is your first day, I'll give you the quick recap. In an event of an emergency, please notify an IGEA team member immediately, be that medical, fire, or other, and we will escalate. In the event of an emergency, one of two alarms will sound. If it is just a beeping, then that's just an alert, so remain calm and await further instructions from MCEC. If it's a whoop whoop, then that is the sign to evacuate immediately. MCEC wardens will direct you to the safest evacuation point and let you know when it is safe to return. If an IGEA team member is not available immediately, please contact one of our many volunteers who you'll spot in the blue GCAP shirts, and they can get in contact with us straight away. If you're feeling at all unwell in any way, please do not remain at GCAP. In case of illness, we do have a refund policy found on our website, and we can assist you to ensure that you don't miss out. We are also providing masks and hand sanitizer at the rego desk again, so please pop by if you'd like either of those. Please ensure that you are abiding by the Code of Conduct, which you can find on the back of your badge, as we have a very strict zero-tolerance policy for issues of bullying and harassment. If you do have any questions or concerns while you're at the conference, myself, Raylene, and the rest of the IGEA team will be floating around during the conference, so feel free to get in contact if you need us for any reason at all. Welcome to GCAP again, and if this is your first day, welcome back to day two, and thank you for listening to me. Our next keynote is a man with an incredibly rich history within the games industry. Working previously as a producer for over 16 years at several studios, including EA and Telltale Games, it's safe to say he has moved through the industry as it has changed, adapted, and grown. He has worked in different countries with teams of every discipline and met with many incredible people. He has also, in my experience, been extremely knowledgeable and generous with his time and expertise, and he currently works as Director of Development for Double Fine Productions. Here to talk to you today about his experiences, his production philosophy, and his approach to enabling teams to reach success, please welcome to the stage Kevin Johnson.
Morning, everybody. How are we doing? So thank you for coming out today and listen to me talk about how I learned to stop worrying and love the journey. A bit about me, as Sap said, I am the Director of Development at Double Fine, which in a nutshell means that I just make sure that our project teams have what they need so that they can be successful. I've been in the game industry for 18 plus years in a variety of roles. Had the good fortune to work in 4 different countries and see how different teams in different places do what they need to do. And I've been on over 20 game teams, and you see a lot in that time. Just a quick path for me. I started in QA at Hasbro Interactive. Then I got an internship at EA. It was actually a design internship. And in the middle of it, someone said, "Hey, I think you'd make a good producer." To which I replied, "What is a producer?" After being told what it is, I thought it was a good idea. Silly young me. And then we shifted to that and ended up with a production internship at EA, which I turned into a full-time job. Went from there to Real Time Worlds, where I worked on a, unfortunately, unreleased MMO. We were doing something really cool. Then eventually at Pendulum Studios, which is an animation studio that makes cutscenes. Then I worked at a community college where I actually taught game development for a little bit. Then at Telltale Games, and then now at Double Fine. A bit more about me. I've been married for almost 20 years. I've gotten really good at saying yes, dear. That's no secret there. 4 wonderful children, because why not live life in hard mode? And my hobbies include playing video games. I'm one of those people who, after working on games all day, will still like to go home and play games. Play basketball and ice hockey, and I love comics and movies because I'm a big nerd. Couple ground rules as I get into this. I'm going to be a bit vague at times when I tell my stories, because I'm not trying to indict anyone or say anything salacious. And I do have a confession, much like that beautiful cake. My title is a bit of a lie. I think more accurately, it's how I mostly learned to stop worrying and love the journey. Because I'm a producer, so I'm going to worry about things. But what I have learned is to worry less, and I worry about different things. And how I got there is I've been able to identify some themes that have been ever present in my career, and that's kind of what I want to get into. So the first one, I think we all know this, making games is hard. And I think we all should just say it out loud right now so that we all really get it. Making games is hard. I mean, for as long as I've been doing this, I cannot say I've been on an easy project, and I think it's just one of those things that, like I said, it's just good to say out loud. And part of it is that, the premise is tough. You want to make, we're making art, but you also try to make commercial success out of it. And, there's no right way to do it. Different teams need different methodologies, and you've got to piece it all together. There's really no, just do this, and then you have a game, and it'll be great. So even when things are going well, they're still difficult. I've been on projects that are more fun than others. I've been on some that are run very smoothly and some not so smoothly. But even when it's going well, it's never reduced the difficulty of the job at hand. And as an industry, we've got a lot of bad habits that we're still trying to let go of. Some things just like proper documentation, writing things down so we can reference it later, to larger issues such as proper compensation and crunch culture, which, the beginning of my career, I definitely had those moments where 70-plus hour weeks for months at a time was just expected. Even at one point, my partner had to spend the weekend in a cubicle next to me in the office because that is the only way that she was going to see me for the weekend. And again, this was just a thing that was accepted, and it wasn't great. It's also not helped that that's what a lot of people think making a game is. And let's not forget about the add multiplayer and the fix bug buttons. You gotta hit those too. Because basically the industry's been pretty opaque, and that works against us a bit as the public has more direct contact with us. And the environment in which we work kind of has more pressure because of that. But we can address that, and this is the part where I'm going to shamelessly plug the fact that if you've not seen the Psych Odyssey documentary series on YouTube, we made a documentary series about how we made Psychonauts 2. It is the good, the bad, the ugly. It's for free, so if you have not seen that, I would highly encourage that and sharing that, because it's a real look at what it takes to make a game, and I think it's a very valuable thing for people to see. And so, because we know that making games is hard, it's also very important that we embrace your FFTs. What is an FFT, you ask? Stands for fucking first time. I first heard this in a talk at GDC from Zoe Carnot. It was titled Leaders Working at the Heart of the Team. I highly encourage anyone who has access to the GDC vault to go and find that. It was a great talk. And fun fact, what I'm doing right now is an FFT. I've never done something like this before. So thank you for letting me do this, and bear with me as I kind of fumble through it. But it's one of those things where you put a name to the thing, and that allows you to actually address it. Because when you do something for the first time, it's likely that you're going to fail, and that's okay. Ideally, you can fail quickly, learn from it, and course correct. But ultimately, the thing to know is that there's a process, failure is going to be a part of it, understanding that, and ultimately granting yourself some grace, because, I've definitely been in many situations where the idea of messing up can just be paralyzing. And so when you can actually understand that the expectation isn't that that you're not going to always get it right, it can be really, really freeing. So the second F stands for first, which means that the mistakes that you make should be new ones. And this is very important, because obviously if you're making the same mistakes over and over again, that's not going to be a lot of fun. But taking chances, making new mistakes, it's part of the process. Own it and learn from it, and it'll help you grow. So just some examples of my wonderful screw-ups over the course of my career. One, not including all stakeholders. There was a time when we were putting together something and we had some decisions to make, and I just did not include everybody that it needed to include, and then eventually something ended up in front of somebody who had no idea what was going on, and they were not happy. There was a time where I assumed I had time that I didn't. Someone came to me once and said, "Hey, what if you had 2 more weeks?" And I looked at the schedule and said, "Well, my team's got about a week and a half of stuff to do, so okay, cool." Kicked my feet up, thought I was good. Then the next day I find out, no, actually I only have 1 week extra, and now the team needs to scramble, and that's completely on me. And then one time I just got the math wrong. I had an asset list, I was putting together a schedule based on it, and I just missed one of the assets. And it wasn't a small one. It was a very significant one that made the schedule go from, hey, maybe we can do this, to, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? And every single time, these were all embarrassing, but I decided to let them be growth experiences rather than shame me into not wanting to continue. So from my wonderful screw-ups come my wonderful learnings, such as taking the time to make a RACI chart, and that's a really production-y project management thing. But ultimately what it means is that taking extra time to consider all the angles and dependencies so that you do have everybody involved who needs to be involved. Instead of assuming that you have a thing, it's not real until it's real. And that's something I take forward from that day. I still say it now to people, until it is real, you have to act on what you know is real, not what you anticipate. And then sometimes you just need to get a second opinion. Had I gotten a second set of eyes to look at my plan based on that asset list, they probably would have caught the fact that I had missed the thing that I was missing, and I could have addressed it and done something with it. So this is a saying that I like. It's very cheesy, I know, but I think it's something that if you embrace and know it's going to be part of the process, it just, like I said, it's freeing to know. It helps you break through the fear because you know that it's expected. The next thing that I've seen as a continuing theme is the idea of taking a chance on someone while remembering that someone took a chance on you. And I feel like that's something that we know intrinsically, but just doesn't get said out loud often enough. So I'm saying it out loud right now. Because basically, no one came out of the womb with a tech demo. I said that once flippantly to a coworker, and they were like, "No, that's actually really good." So I'm going to keep using it. But really, it's the fact that we all grew into wherever we are right now, and at some point, someone decided to take a chance on us to enable us to do what we can do, and we need to be able to do that with other people as well. And it's a skill, so it's something that you have to consciously recognize as something that you need to do. Because we have a responsibility to the next generation to bring them up, to help them avoid the pitfalls that we fell into. We need to build talent internally so that our processes get better and we can make better games. The whole problem was articulated by my 14-year-old daughter, where she came home from school one day, seemed very flustered, said, "Hey, what's going on?" Throws her bag on the ground, throws herself on the couch and says, "Every job wants you to have 5 years experience. How are you supposed to get 5 years experience?" I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of it. I have no idea what in her day got her to that point. I've not been asking my child to get a job, but if it can be recognized just through the course of the day by a 14-year-old, I think that kind of, lets us know the magnitude of the problem. And so along those lines, when I was at Telltale, our cinematic artist department, people had specialties. And one of the most difficult parts of making those games was creating the action scenes. And there was a small group of artists who had done the action scenes and were known as the experts, and there were just constant fights over getting those people on your team so that you can get the action scenes done. But of course, this isn't sustainable. So through a lot of talking and a lot of convincing, I finally got the green light to take a chance on 2 cinematic artists that I thought could be taught to make action scenes for our particular title. And I had to come up with contingency upon contingency upon contingency to make everybody feel better about it. But ultimately, they were given the chance. And I told them, I said, "Hey, we're giving you this chance because I believe you can do this." And they took it on and they both nailed it. Which was great because now we had more people who could make action scenes. And more importantly, it was driving home the point that we need to be developing the next round of people who can do these things, because eventually the people who are doing it now are going to leave, and you need to be able to fill those gaps. I think something else that doesn't get talked about enough is mentorship in the industry. So I'm going to say right now, if you don't have a mentor, find one. And also, you should be a mentor. I've been lucky enough to have great mentors at almost every company that I've worked at that have helped shape me over the years. And it doesn't take a lot of experience to be a mentor. And learning from those who've come before is obviously very important, but also teaching those who come next is just as important. And also, you end up learning a lot from the people you're mentoring as you will from your own mentor. So again, I'm just going to reiterate, if you don't have a mentor, find one, and you should also be a mentor. Which brings me to the next part. It's about knowing thyself. And a big part of this is just making an honest assessment of yourself. And this can be difficult because, we're all awesome. We know we're all awesome. We're not awesome at everything, and that's okay. If you know what you can and can't do and are honest about it, that will help you grow into the best version of yourself so that you can reach your full potential. And so if you're a subject matter expert, be a subject matter expert. And this is one of those things that I've had a bunch of experience with in terms of making sure that if you know something, make sure that people know you know something. I had a situation where I had shipped a game, I had become a subject matter expert on a particular process, I had a whole pipeline, I had my doc structure, I had everything. I knew that this worked. I'd done a game with it, it went as well as you could hope, and I'm gonna bring it to this new team and basically just do the same thing because I know it works. Unfortunately, one of the leads on the other team said, no, I don't think that my team doesn't want that. And I said, well, but I know that this works, and as far as I can see, you don't really have a process. So, and he's like, no, it's too much documentation. They don't want that. And as much as I tried to reassure, hey, they don't have to deal with that. Please, again, trust me, this will be fine. They kept pushing back, and I was still younger in my career, so I wasn't really willing to stand up for myself. And so I caved. I created a compromised version. It was painful. It sucked. And then and also not helped by the fact that the person who was telling me no left the project a month later while we were in it. That really sucked. But then at the end of the project, I actually went to the new lead and said, hey, this is the thing I wanted to do in the beginning, to which that person said, oh my gosh, that's great. We should have done that. And also knowing when it's okay to say that you can't. Sometimes you get overwhelmed. Sometimes you're just asked to do something that's beyond your limits, and that's okay. It's actually healthy to do it. Although I'm going to admit I'm still bad at this. I have too many reviews that talk about making sure that I'm taking on the right amount of work. But setting boundaries is good. It keeps you healthy. Relying on others is okay. It's not a sign of weakness to say that you can't. And it's the people that you're with. This is a big one for me. This is something that was articulated while I was at Telltale. And it really, really is true. Because we know that making games is hard, the people that you make them with is really, really, really important. And this is just a little peeve of mine, so I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second, but people aren't resources. People use resources. And this is a thing I just tell myself because sometimes I think it's really easy to forget that people make games, and there's a lot of humanity in what we do. And so, again, this is just a really personal thing for me to make sure that we hold on to that and recognize it at all times so that we treat people the way that they need to be treated so that we can do the best that we can do. And again, I'm going to shamelessly plug the Psychodyssey documentary series again, because it really is about showing the humans behind what we do. Also, the industry is small, and you will see people again. My move from EA to Telltale happened because 10 years prior, when I was at EA, I was on a team that was working with an external developer. Was in the trenches. We made a great game. We were very happy with it. The development director from that game ended up being one of the people interviewing me at Telltale 10 years later. It's actually funny, we didn't recognize each other at first, but at the moment we did, it was a big catch up. I actually felt bad for the other interviewers because we kind of just became real chatty with each other. And then in my time at Telltale, met people there, and then the reason I was able to get my position at Double Fine was because one of the people who I met at Telltale went on to be at Double Fine, and when I got laid off from Telltale, they were able to let me know about opportunities there. And so it is about who you know, but you'll see people, and being nice pays off. And then at the same time, while working on Psychonauts 2, we wanted to get some cinematic artists, and in looking, when we reached out, one of the people that we ended up getting was actually one of the cinematic artists that I convinced people to take a chance on back at Telltale. He was able to use his success from that moment to build out his career so that he can become a senior cinematic artist, and then it came full circle and able to help me out in finishing Psychonauts 2. Also, as you go to various conferences, I'm sure if you've been to GCAP or any other conference multiple times, you'll just, you're going to see people again. I went to DICE Vegas a couple of years ago and ended up seeing someone who I was an internship with at EA forever ago. I'm running into old production team members from my EA days from 15 plus years ago. It's just, as big as the industry is, it is really small, and knowing that you're going to see people again is just something to keep in mind. And also understanding that diversity matters. Diversity in the industry I know it's a big topic right now, and I think it's really worth discussing because it does matter. It's proven positive results. There's no shortage of case studies that show that having alternate views, alternate voices at the table result in better teams, better products, and it's worth doing. One of those things was, for me, was when I was working on Madden, gone through the cycle with them, and they're starting to plan for the next year. And one of the things, they were trying to figure out how to do more with their gameplay. And I just questioned. I said, why? You guys are really good at the football part, but the presentation is really where I think you need to work, because those late game situations where it should be very tense feel just like the beginning of the game, and that shouldn't be. And to their credit, they kind of took on that view, put in some of that stuff, and it resulted in things that were called out in the next year's review as really enhancing the game. Alternatively, when I was on a team, I was not my team, sorry. I was talking to the QA people on a different team at a studio I was at, and they were very concerned about the core tenets of the gameplay of the game that they were working on, and they were trying to relate that to the dev team. And unfortunately, rather than taking that alternate view and considering it and saying maybe there's something there, they basically said keep filing bugs. And the recommend bug is kind of a way of saying thank you for your feedback, and we know it's not going to get looked at. And unfortunately, that game came out and it was very poorly received for all the reasons the QA team was trying to tell them about. But they were just too proud to take on alternate views and see if it could help them. I think it's really important to know that you're all in this together. We're all in this together. The game dev community is very uplifting. Unfortunately, there's been terrible rash of layoffs recently, but the industry rallies, and we support people. And I think that's something that's really special that I've seen in this industry that I haven't seen in other places that I've had exposure to. And yes, even though resources are finite, it's important to remember that it's not actually zero sum. It's really easy to get caught up in the numbers of things. But one team's success does not mean another team's failure. We can all lift each other up and make ourselves better all around. And what's really exciting is that actually, Australia in particular is on the cusp of a really big breakout moment. You guys have an incredible community. I've been extremely impressed with everything I've been able to learn. You've got great support, and when that moment comes, it's going to be really, really exciting to see you all flourish, and I can't wait to see what you all come up with. Thank you.